The engines scream as two Ukrainian MiG-29s race through the night sky, their afterburners lighting up the valley below. Every second counts. In 15 minutes, they'll strike a Russian UAV command center that's been coordinating relentless drone attacks on civilian infrastructure for weeks. But the mission is far from simple. Russian air defenses are on high alert, and a Su-30 fighter is already on its way, closing in fast. The MiGs are flying low, too low, just 100 meters above the ground, using the terrain to mask their approach. But the further they go, the more dangerous it gets. Russian radar systems are sweeping the sky, and the clock is ticking. They've carefully planned every move, using months of electronic reconnaissance to exploit every gap in enemy coverage. But as they approach the target, an unexpected alarm blares in the cockpit. The S-400 battalion has locked onto them. A warning flashes on the radar. The Russian fighter is almost within missile range. In the distance, the UAV command center stands between them and success, but the danger is mounting. They have no choice but to push forward. But what they didn't know was that the Russians had set a trap they couldn't escape. The MiGs slice through the air, their engines roaring as they navigate the valley, just below the radar's reach. Every move is calculated, every shift in altitude deliberate. The lead pilot's knuckles whiten on the controls, sweat trickling down his forehead. He knows that one mistake, one moment of hesitation, could spell their doom. The target is 15 minutes away, but first, they must survive the gauntlet of Russian air defenses. Behind them, the Russian Su-30 accelerates, its radar locking on. The fighter pilot isn't rushing to engage. They're waiting for the perfect moment, biding their time, knowing the MiGs will have to climb to release their bombs. But that's when they'll be vulnerable. The Ukrainian pilots have no choice but to stay low and fast, hoping to avoid detection. The lead pilot scans the terrain, rolling hills and jagged ridgelines. It's perfect cover, but there's always a risk. Every radar system in the region is active, and they're closing in fast. The seconds feel like hours. Up ahead, a faint signal flickers on the radar. The S-400's radar has just swept across their path. The MiGs are in its crosshairs. "Stay on course," the lead pilot mutters, his voice steady. "We're too close to turn back now." A new radar system is locking on. Will they evade it before it's too late? The warning on the lead MiG's display flashes red. The S-400 radar has locked on, its phased array antennas scanning the valley for any sign of movement. The MiGs are flying low, but they're within range now. "Time to deviate," the lead pilot says, voice calm but laced with tension. He pulls the stick slightly to the right, making a quick but controlled maneuver. The MiGs veer off course, diving deeper into the valley to stay beneath the radar's coverage. But the move comes with a price. The engines roar louder as the MiGs push harder, burning more fuel with every second. The mission timeline is slipping, and the closer they get to the target, the more the Russian defenses tighten their grip. The MiG's radar warning system starts blaring. The enemy is tracking them now. A new signal spikes on the radar. The Su-30 has received vectors and is now closing in fast. The lead MiG sensors ping with a missile lock. Too close. With no time to waste, the pilot switches on the countermeasures. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." The MiG pulls up sharply, rolling to break the missile's lock. The warning tones escalate as the missile races toward them. The missile is closing fast. Can they outmaneuver it before it's too late? The missile streaks toward the lead MiG, its engine blazing with deadly precision. The pilot punches the afterburners, thrusting the aircraft into a hard climb. The airframe groans under the stress as the MiG shoots upward, narrowly dodging the missile's trajectory. The missile, unable to keep up, detonates a mere 30 meters behind, the shockwave rattling the MiG's fuselage. The lead MiG stabilizes for a moment, but the danger isn't over. The Su-30 fighter is now on their tail, tracking them with its advanced radar. Every maneuver they make is anticipated. The MiGs are out of fuel and losing speed. Behind them, the second MiG is keeping pace, watching as the first aircraft engages in a desperate aerial dance. He spots the incoming threat, a Russian Buk M3 SAM battery, its radar already painting the MiGs with deadly precision. The system is designed to track and destroy targets at a distance of up to 70 kilometers. The lead MiG is now within its range. "Switch to evasive!" the the second pilot commands, noticing the impending lock. The MiG swings right, diving into a steep roll to confuse the Buck's radar. Chaff and flares spew out behind them, filling the sky with a chaotic array of decoys. The lead pilot executes a final roll, pulling the MiG into an aggressive climb. The enemy is not far behind, but this could be their only chance. They've evaded the missile, but the SAMs are still coming. Will they survive the second wave? The MiGs are running out of time. The target is almost within reach, but the tension in the cockpit is unbearable. The second MiG, keeping pace, begins its descent to drop altitude for a bombing run. The lead pilot checks his fuel gauge. Only a few minutes of power left. Every second is critical. "We need to release now," the lead pilot says, a hint of urgency in his voice. The radar warning system is flashing non-stop. The Buck M3 SAM is getting closer, and the Su-30 is still tailing them, closing in fast. The target is just ahead, and the mission parameters are clear. The MiGs are to release their bombs at 8,000 feet, the perfect altitude for their glide bombs to achieve maximum range. But climbing to that height will expose them to everything below. The lead pilot begins the climb, pressing the MiG into a steep ascent. The air is thick with tension as both pilots keep their eyes locked on the target. Their bombs are locked, the fuse is armed, but it's a risky move. At 7,000 feet, the SAM's radar locks onto them again, and the Su-30 is within missile range. The lead MiG opens fire, releasing the AASM hammer bombs just as the target comes into view. The weapons detach cleanly, falling toward the Russian command center. But as the bombs fall, another alarm sounds. The bombs are on their way, but a new missile has just locked on. Can they outrun it in time? The moment the bombs release, the lead MiG executes a sharp dive, pushing the aircraft into a terrifying descent. The tail thrums with the vibrations of high-speed flight, but the mission is clear. Get the bombs away, then get out. The Su-30 fighter is closing in. Its missiles are on the way. The radar warning system blares again. 2 R-77 missiles are homing in on the lead MiG. The pilots know the drill. This is the moment they've been trained for. The MiG pulls into a tight roll, the world spinning outside the cockpit, trying to throw the missiles off course. The missiles follow, locked on, and the tension builds. The lead pilot hits the countermeasure button again. Chaff and flares erupt behind the MiG, creating a haze of false targets in the sky. The R-77s adjust, but not fast enough. One missile detonates just 10 meters behind the aircraft, sending shockwaves through the frame. The MiG shudders but holds steady. Another missile locks on. The second MiG is already in position, watching the drama unfold. The second pilot lines up behind the first MiG, tracking the Su-30's position. The second MiG dives hard to intercept, creating chaos in the sky as the Su-30 tries to adjust to the new threat. The first MiG evades, but it's a close call. The missiles missed, but the Russians aren't giving up. The Su-30 is still on their tail. How long can they keep this up? The bombs detonate with a deafening roar, sending a massive fireball skyward. The Russian UAV command post is obliterated, crumbling into a heap of burning debris. The strike is a success, but the victory feels hollow. The MiGs are battered. Fuel is dangerously low, and both aircraft are now in the crosshairs of a relentless Russian counteroffensive. The lead pilot checks his instruments, his heart pounding. They've completed the mission, but the hardest part is still ahead: getting out alive. The Russian air defenses are on high alert, and every radar system within 100 kilometers is now hunting for them. "Target destroyed!" the lead pilot calls over the comms, but there's no relief in his voice. The mission may be over, but the escape is just beginning. The second MiG falls into formation behind the lead, staying low to avoid radar detection. The Russian Su-30 has disengaged momentarily, but it's only a matter of time before the fighter closes in again. The MiGs are running out of fuel, out of options. The lead pilot scans the sky ahead. The sun is rising, but there's no safety in daylight. The Russian air defenses have been activated. They can't outrun them forever. The MiGs dive again, using the terrain to mask their flight. The mission was a success, but now they have to survive the return trip through the heart of enemy territory. The MiGs race toward the border, but every second feels like an eternity. The landscape beneath them is a blur, the rolling hills providing the only cover from Russian radar. The lead pilot's hands are steady on the controls, but his mind is racing. Their fuel is almost gone. They're running out of options, and the Su-30 is still out there, hunting them. Almost there, the lead pilot says, but his voice betrays the tension. They're getting close to Ukrainian airspace, but the clock is ticking. The Su-30 is tracking them, its radar now more aggressive than ever. The Russian fighter is closing in, and there's no time for evasive maneuvers. The second MiG scans the skies. The missile warning system goes off again. This time, it's not a test. "Sam, launch!" the second pilot yells, his eyes locked on the radar. A fresh wave of missiles is headed their way, fired from the Russian S-400 battery near Kursk. "Dive!" the lead pilot orders. The MiGs plunge lower, skimming the treetops, hoping the terrain will mask their presence long enough for the missiles to miss. A burst of heat from the SAMs explodes behind them, sending shockwaves through the air. The MiGs are alive, for now, but the threat is far from over. The SAMs missed, but the Su-30 is closing fast. It's not over yet. Will they make it out alive? The MiGs keep racing toward safety, their afterburners pushed to the limit, but the cost of their survival is evident. The lead MiG's instruments are flashing red, critical systems are offline, and the fuel gauge is perilously low. The aircraft is still functional, but barely. The second MiG, too, is showing signs of wear, its engine straining under the pressure. The pilots know they're playing a dangerous game. "We're running out of time," the second pilot says, his voice steady despite the mounting tension. The mission is over. They've struck the Russian command center, but now they have to get home. And with every passing second, the danger increases. Ahead, Ukrainian airspace is in sight. The border is just a few miles away, but the Su-30 isn't far behind. The Russian fighter is gaining, and the MiGs have no choice but to fight their way through the final stretch. The Su-30 is in missile range now, and the second MiG is already signaling an incoming attack. "Prepare for evasive action," the lead pilot orders. The MiGs dive once more, their engines roaring as they push hard for the border. SAMs continue to track them, but the MiGs use the last of their maneuverability to dodge and weave, hoping to avoid the final kill shot. They're almost there, but the Su-30 is about to launch its missiles. Will the MiGs make it across the border in time? The MiGs are almost home. The Ukrainian border looms ahead, just a few miles away. The pilots are exhausted, their bodies aching from the relentless strain of the flight. The Su-30 is on their tail, and it's closing in fast. The lead MiG pushes its engines to the max, the sound of the afterburners deafening as they race towards safety. But the Russian fighter isn't giving up. Its radar locks on again, and two R-77 missiles streak toward the MiGs at Mach 4. "Missile launch!" the second pilot shouts, seeing the deadly threat on his radar. The lead MiG dives sharply, banking to the left, hoping to break the lock. The first missile explodes just behind them, the shockwave rattling the MiG's structure. The second missile is already closing in. The lead pilot slams the stick forward, diving straight into a vertical drop. The MiG's engines scream as they go into a desperate corkscrew maneuver, twisting and turning in the air to throw off the missile's guidance system. The missile tracks, but at the last moment, it overshoots, its proximity fuse failing to detect the MiG's rapid maneuvering. They're so close now. The lead MiG is nearly over the border when a final, desperate measure is taken. The lead pilot pulls a 9G turn, pushing the MiG to its limit. The Su-30 follows, but the MiG is too fast, too unpredictable. The MiG crosses the border, just as another missile locks on. The MiGs have made it across the border, but there's one last missile closing in. Will it hit, or is the war far from over? The lead MiG's wings shake as it bursts into Ukrainian airspace, the roar of the afterburners cutting through the sky. The border is behind them, but the danger is far from over. The missile lock is still active. One last Russian R-77 missile is chasing them, its heat-seeking guidance locked onto the MiG's tail. The lead pilot can feel the pressure mounting. His heart races, and every part of his body screams for him to take action. "Brace for impact!" the second pilot yells. But the lead MiG pilot has other plans. His hand is firm on the controls as he plunges into a steep dive, hurtling toward the ground below. The missile is hot on his tail, the blaring warning tones cutting through the chaos of the cockpit. With only seconds to spare, the pilot slams the MiG into a high-speed roll, a desperate maneuver that twists the aircraft in ways it was never meant to go. The missile, unable to keep up with the erratic movement, misses by mere feet. The shockwave from the near miss rattles the aircraft, but the MiG is still airborne. The lead MiG pulls out of the dive, leveling off just above the treetops. The terrain is familiar now, Ukrainian soil beneath them, but the pilot knows this escape has cost them everything. Their fuel is almost gone, their aircraft damaged. It's not over yet, but they've survived. The missiles missed. The mission was a success, but as the MiGs head home, something much bigger looms on the horizon. What will the Russians do next?